and welcome to another installment of From Russia with Minecraft. Today I'll be going over the zone that I'm in and every one of the structures that I've built so far. The video will be actually just a brief description of each structure and each compound, and more detailed videos on each individual item and each individual building will come as time goes on. So, to begin with, I'll start going over the structures I built first, shortly after spawning, and then I'll move on in chronological order to other structures that I built subsequently. So, to begin with, after I spawned on this little hilltop, I moved here to this flatland and I built this compound. The compound originally consisted of just this building and the shack that you see behind it. The hallway and everything behind it were actually added afterwards. The compound eventually grew into its present size. It's larger than a lot of constructions, but it's actually relatively medium-sized compared to some of the other structures on the server. The compound, for the most part, these days is actually abandoned. I used to have my main operation here when I was mining for parts, but I've since moved most of my operation to another location. Moving on to the north from the compound, you come upon my village. This was actually originally a computer-generated NPC village. NPC stands for non-player character, if you're familiar with the term. The Minecraft game actually generates villages at random, and you can happen upon them, and in a lot of cases they're populated by villagers. You can trade with them, you can raid their plantations for wheat, potatoes, and carrots. Here they are. They're all genderless. They look like Muppets, honestly. And if you take a look at this interface right here, you can trade emeralds for various items, or in some cases, items for emeralds. So this village itself, of the original structures, nothing remains. I've leveled them and rebuilt these various buildings in their stead. The village nowadays serves primarily as a storage facility. Each of these so-called shops is just a storage facility for a specific type of block. So, for example, this one is storage for wool. This one is for glass. That one at the end is just for miscellaneous blocks like stone and bricks. This one is for plants and seeds, meat, baked goods, fruits and veggies, and various redstone circuits and railway pieces. In that corner of the village, you have the residential quarter. The buildings themselves are actually just hollow. There's nothing in them. There are no features. The only purpose they serve is to provide doors which allow the computer to spawn more villagers. The number of villagers is determined primarily by the number of doors on a given structure. This cathedral was built primarily on a whim. I myself am not particularly religious, but I've always thoroughly enjoyed the architecture of various religions, and particularly Catholicism with its grandiose and splendid cathedrals have always captivated my imagination. This is the livestock tower, which houses, as the name suggests, all my livestock in the village. I use this primarily to farm wool of every color and the meat of chickens, cows, and pigs. These two buildings right here, they look kind of like twin towers, but actually one of them is 10 stories and the other is 11. They both house, to my knowledge, every crop in the game, and they house, there are multitudes of each individual crop. So, for example, on the third level you see sugarcane, that green, neon green stalk right there. There are 300 plants per plot, and there are 4 plots and then 2 levels each. So you can harvest hundreds upon thousands of various plants from these buildings. And this right here, the final piece, is my mushroom palace. Mushrooms in general, or giant mushrooms rather, have always captivated my imagination. I've always found large mushrooms to be a staple of fantasy. You'll see a lot of those in Mario, for example, and in World of Warcraft there's a whole zone that is very sort of mushroom-centric, called Zengamarsh. And I've just always found them to be very fun, very fascinating, so I thought, hey, why not build, a giant habitable mushroom of my own? So moving on from here, this structure in the background that you may have seen in my previous videos and earlier in this one is called Sky Crown. This is my Sky City. This is my primary purpose for the server, my primary project in here. Sky Crown is actually what you see right now is Sky Crown's northern module. There are 5 modules in the making, of which this is the only one that's even close to completion. You'll notice on the bottom levels I've actually built up a few rings. These rings are actually promenades. You can walk along them, you can observe the outside world from them. And the upper levels you'll notice are actually just beams and structures. Those have yet to be built up, but I'm planning on building 4 towers up there along with some structures that hug the outside surface of the sphere. The sphere itself is 145 meters in diameter and 36 levels high. This, as I said, is one of 5 spheres. This is the northernmost sphere. The other 5 I've yet to build. I'm sorry, the other 4 I've yet to build. But of those 4, the middle one has its central rings up and running already. There's nothing on them, but they're built. I'm going to move a little bit closer to Skycrown itself to display a couple of other features that I've built over the past few weeks. You see that sort of double sphere hourglass figure in the background. Those are the northwest auxiliary spheres, the northwest inferior sphere and the northwest superior sphere. These spheres serve a support role. Each of these spheres will house various, well, in this particular case I plan on having livestock in the inferior sphere and then crops and farmland in the superior sphere. They may not necessarily look like much from a distance, but they're actually each 73 meters in diameter and 18 levels high, so each of these spheres is actually 1/8 the size of the larger one. So right now, again, the only thing that's up and running is the core, which has a stairway that goes all the way up and down, and the surrounding structure. But eventually that'll be glassed off, there'll be actual floors on which you can walk, and grass, animals, various other attractions. You'll also notice a walkway here. It's a 2-story walkway. There's an inferior part and a superior part, basically 2 levels on which you can walk, and then the large walkway it connects to is right now only halfway built, like only the bottom half of it is built, but it's actually 4 levels. The bottom level will be a railway, and then the top 3 levels will just be walkways. The actual bottom, or the second level, the bottom of the walking levels, will also be designed for horse transportation. And then in the distance you can see another walkway like the main one here. This is the walkway to the western module, which is currently unbuilt, and then that right there are the that's the structure for the central levels of the central module. Those are levels 17, 18, 19, and 20 of the central module. So moving back a bit, this project has actually this project predates the village itself, but my last few additions to it were newer than the village, so I thought I'd go over that after I went over the village. Moving to the other side of the village, actually this palace right here was built by my friend Kim, so I'm currently ill-equipped to give a walkthrough or even a brief description, unfortunately, but I will confer with her and I will give a walkthrough perhaps in a different video once I'm more certain of what features to showcase. Okay, right there in the distance you see the white structure with the waterfall and the rainbow that's taking a minute to load. That is my cloud home. The cloud home is actually built out of snow blocks, and it houses, it's actually it's relatively small. It's not too high up in the air, and it's got one main structure that's 3 floors high, and then it's got kind of a sort of garden on that neighboring island right there. The two smaller islands at this point serve no purpose other than to give somebody a better vantage point, and then the rainbow is just there for decoration. It's just made of colored wool. The palace that just loaded was built by my friend Travis. Once again, I'm not entirely certain of all its features, so I am not going to do a walkthrough at this point just yet. But once I've conferred with him and once he's given me a tour, I can actually go and display this one as well. And then the final feature of any consequence on the server is that structure up there. Let me get out into the open and give you a better view. This, okay, so anyone familiar with Star Trek will instantly recognize that this is a Federation ship. This is what I refer to as the Aurora. The ship is called the Aurora. It's a Nova-class vessel that was featured in Star Trek Voyager in particular, and I don't think I've actually seen Nova-class vessels outside of Voyager, and outside, of course, of online sources. The ship itself is 197 meters from front to back, and I don't fully recall what its width is currently. I want to say its width is somewhere in the 60-meter range. It's 8 decks, and currently I'm still working on it. It has 73 sets of crew quarters, as well as an arboretum, a mushroom garden, a lounge, a childcare facility, and a school. There's also an engineering section with a proper warp core. The warp core is made of glass with lava flowing inside it for just visual, for aesthetic quality. And then there's a walkway from the Aurora to Skycrown. So the way you get there is you'd actually use a portal to teleport aboard Skycrown, and then you just climb the core and walk all the way to the Aurora. I will be demonstrating all of these in much greater detail in future videos. That said, thank you very much for listening, and tune in next time for some more detailed walkthroughs of my various facilities. Alright, you all have a good one.